Welcome once again to Gajali program and Prudent Media. So coming to that, Arjun, you were the youngest in the world when you summited Everest at about 6:18 a.m. on Friday, 22nd of 2010. What was the feeling when you reached the summit? I mean, was it that you were the youngest in the world, or is it that you summited the Everest? What was more overwhelming?
The fact which was more overwhelming was basically I'd finally achieved my dream, which I was nurturing for the past 6 years. You know,
right.
Something which you've been training for, something which you never imagined you can see. You know, a view which we call it the $1 billion view. Even after paying $1 billion, you cannot view it. Because when you're standing on the summit of Everest, you know, and if you're one of the lucky people who actually reached before sunrise, me being a little bit faster climber, I reached there almost when the dawn was about to crack. And it's a view when you actually see the sun rising at the Earth's curvature. You know, you can see the Earth bending down from there.
Must have been wonderful.
And generally, you might see the sun rising at your eye level, above your eye level out here. But out there, when you're standing on the summit of Everest, the highest point on Earth, you're looking down at the sun. So you know, it's an amazing feeling of empowerment, and you know.
Yeah, and Arjun, about an hour later, maybe when you were descending, your record was broken by a 13-year-old American, Jordan Romero, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how could you react to this mixed feeling, especially at that altitude? Could you react in the first place?
First of all, I only got to know after 2 days when I reached base camp.
Really?
You know.
Okay.
But you know, obviously, you know, if you ask me as a normal teenager, I would like, shit, he broke my record. I'm just the second youngest person in the world to summit Everest. But but I say, you know, he's done that, you know, 13, which is a really remarkable thing. You know, whatever said and done, he's standing on the summit, and you know, whatever is behind it or whatever he's done it. So I can personally say I couldn't have been able to do it when I was 13. So hats off to him. But you know, when I came back, you know, all the foreign climbers were like, "Oh, aren't you feeling bad? Somebody broke your record." So I was like, you know, what's the population of Canada? They're like 40 million. What's the population of the States? I was like 60 million.
That's true.
So I said, you know, I have 1.3 billion people waiting back in my country, so it doesn't even matter. I'm still the youngest Indian.
That's a superb answer. Anyway, see, we all know that any expedition has got a huge team. You know, it has mountaineers, it has porters, it has Sherpas, the guides. Now, how does it feel to be in a team? I'm asking you this question particularly because you took on Lhotse solo, right?
Absolutely.
So, what was the difference? Was it more challenging doing it all by yourself, or was it to be?
Yes, you know, absolutely. When you're climbing a mountain with like team members like Appa Sherpa, who's the world record currently holder for, you know, climbing Everest 21 times. You know, I climbed with him during his remarkable climb of the 20th summit on Everest, you know. So when you're on the mountain with the most experienced person who's been on the summit the most times in the world, you know, so it's like a completely different game. But you know, yes, there is the feeling, you know, that whenever you're climbing, you know, in a team, that if something goes wrong, there's a person behind me, there's a person in front of me, there's a person in one in the camp behind me.
More secure feeling.
A more secure feeling, you know, but that has a totally different fun. But on one like Lhotse, where I was just with 2 other more Sherpas with me, you know, me and my 2 other Sherpas, and we went all along solo, you know, from Lhotse Camp 4. I think that has its own fun, you know, the feeling on, you know, just being on the edge, you know, and living like, you know.
And I think Lhotse is much more technically much more challenging than Everest. That's what.
Absolutely, yes. You know, Lhotse is much more challenging than Everest, and the climb which I did after that, Manaslu, was even more difficult. So I'm trying to improve my mountaineering skills slowly. I'm trying to take it slow and easy because, you know, very wise words said by Appa Sherpa, you know, mountains are always there, you know. You don't have to push it beyond your limit. You can come back if you have your life again.
I think that's well said. But during your ascent to the summit of Everest, I'm sure there have been challenges, various adventures all along the way, because you're always battling against the nature there.
Absolutely.
But could you recall very briefly, you know, any such incident where you all have had a very narrow escape?
Well, the most narrow escape, like there were 2 narrow escapes. One was, you know, where my luck came into play was, you know, we were on our way to the summit push. We were just below the south summit, and my oxygen pipe froze, you know. So slowly I started to feel dizzy, and you know, something happened. You know, I was down on my knees and I couldn't actually just get up from there. And
so that was your past Camp 4?
So we were past Camp 4. We are just below the South Summit. That means just below the South Summit is almost about 8,300 meters. So I think that was quite high. And you know, my Sherpa, one Sherpa was ahead of me and one Sherpa was coming from behind. So the more experienced one was behind me, and what happened, so I just told him, you know, I couldn't actually even signal to him. I just waved my hand. He came towards me and he's like, what is wrong? And he's like, I cannot breathe. And you know, because obviously you're on oxygen, and immediately if your oxygen supply is stopped, it's because you're out there above 8,000 meters, it's almost 1/3 of the oxygen what you're breathing out here. So if you actually practically take a person from sea level in a helicopter in a big chamber and give them up, you know, leave them up on the summit of Everest, they will actually, you know,
die of pulmonary edema,
of pulmonary edema in like a few seconds. So come back to my story was like, and then my Sherpa came into play. He was like, he just poured some hot water on it, and then you know, my oxygen started coming, and then I reached the summit. You know, apart from that, coming back down was, you know, everything was so good. Got acclimatized really well. Summited finally. You know, everything went all, you know, perfectly well. No problems with the weather. Got a very good weather window. Summited at really good time. Saw a beautiful view. While coming back down, what happened was generally people summit Everest, come back at Camp 4. Spend the night there, then come back at Camp 2, spend the night there, and then come back down to base camp. But me having that block in mind that I'm young, and you know that the altitude is hitting me, so I said that, you know, I won't stop at Camp 4. So after summiting Everest, I straight away went down to Camp 2. Coming back down to Camp 2, so we started our journey at 9 o'clock at night on the 21st. And I was walking the next day on the 22nd till 4 o'clock in the evening continuously.
So that must be quite tiring.
So that was almost 16 to 17 hours, you know, and you know, at 13th hour, you know, which they call it the unlucky hour. It was about like about 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the afternoon. I was crossing one of the most challenging phases which you incur during your Everest climb, is the Lhotse phase.
Lhotse phase,
between Camp 2 and Camp 3, a steep icy wall made up of full blue ice. You have to climb, and while coming back down, you know, while going up, it threw a big challenge to me. You know, it took all what I had inside me, but coming back down, I never imagined that this was going to happen. So at the base of the wall, there's this big crack in the glacier called the Bergschrund, and it just goes down. You know, there's this Kazakhstani climber's body just lying beside that glacier. He fell from Camp 3 and he just came back down. And I was coming down, and at this big junction, you know, where you have to change anchors. When you're coming back down, you have your self-safety and you're changing anchors, you're changing ropes. So while changing one of those ropes, I did the classic climber's mistake, you know, took the wrong rope, went on the wrong track.
So that's the ascending and the descending rope?
Yeah. So basically, no, it was one of the earlier expeditions rope, like, you know, one of the earlier seasons rope. So went on the totally wrong track, and you know, I found myself, and soon I found myself hanging on a 200 meters drop, after which I could see the Bergschrund, which just went black. So, you know, I was assuming it must be like another 500 meters down. So almost 700 to 800 meters drop straight down. I knew I was obviously going to die that day. I was hanging there with that rope. Somehow I didn't even have my Jumar. So I actually had my Jumar in my thing, but it wasn't in my mind. You know, I was completely exhausted. 13 hours of continuous walking, and I was completely exhausted. Got literally disorientated, you know. That's where they say experience comes into play, you know. So I was having my Jumar, but I couldn't use it. And hanging out there on my hands, somehow locked the rope in my hands, and continuously there for the next 5 minutes. And that day I was just praying. And I've never prayed to God. I should never believe in God. But that day was one day when I prayed to God, and I said, you know, if you're ever going to help me in my life, just help me today. I've never asked for anything else. And fortunately, you know, there was the Sherpa coming down. He saw me. And I still remember I was singing this, you know, I always wanted to perform. I'm a horrible singer, actually. I'm just not even a bathroom singer. My friends are like, if you sing, we'll kill you. So I always wanted to perform this song in front of a big audience, and that day I had my audience as the mountains. And I must say they were quite patient listeners. So I started singing the classic number, Summer of '69, in front of them. And, you know, I was crying, whimpering like a kid out there. But fortunately, this Sherpa saw me while coming back down. He heard my Summer of '69 song. And like, hey, what are you doing out there? And he was like,
and he managed to pull you out.
I was like, sing that song, and he was like, he surely must have thought I've lost it for sure. And he somehow came down, he pulled me up, and I was back on track. We didn't speak much, but yeah, you know.
Hey, that's really
somehow
scary.
Helped me out, yeah, and that was one time when, you know, that is one time, you know, when in your life you start looking back, when you can see your death right in front of you, you know, you ask yourself your questions that, you know, were you a good son ever, or did you love your mother enough, or, you know, just give me 1 minute, let me go back to my parents once and, you know, say sorry for what I did wrong, maybe, you know.
I see.
So I think that was.
I mean, you think of all possible things that have gone wrong.
Which you might never think.
That's
so
true.
That was one thing which will always remain in my, you know, mind.
I bet it will. Arjun, what message do you have to give to the mountaineers and to the trekkers in Goa? Because I'm sure this will be viewed more in Goa, you know. And I want a message from you, particularly for our youth, you know, because you could inspire them to go to do a sport like this, you know, which is very thrilling, challenging, which is and you have to train to do it, you know. So you have up in your mind, you have to be strong in your mind and strong in your body.
Yeah, you know, so mountaineering, you know, is not only just a sport. Mountaineering being a sport where it's just not about physical fitness, it's about a lot of mental fitness as well. So, you know, it helps you develop your personality in a very dynamic way, you know, from leadership skills to speaking skills to, you know, a lot of things, you know, decision making in crucial times. So all I would say is that, you know, this is an amazing sport. Everybody should experience adventure. You know, it can be any sort of adventure, maybe kicking a small rock, throwing a small pebble into the water, from starting a small trek or going for an evening walk, you know. For some people, for going for an evening walk is also an adventure. It starts from that small steps, and all I would like to tell them is that, you know, life is too short. You know, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking too much of space. So you should live your life.
You can't be too laid back.
You can't be too laid back. Live your life every day and never plan about the future. Live a life every day to the fullest, and you know, dream big and dare to chase it.
Especially I liked, as I was just reading and I was preparing for this interview, you know, I just happened to come across an article which was written. Some of the points, some of the tips were yours, which I think they went to Prince Harry, because I think he has this dream of going up to the Everest or summiting the Everest. And what I like the most about it is, you know, you're not just conquering the mountains, you know, you're conquering your own mind, yourself.
Absolutely.
I think that's the takeaway from any mountaineer, you know, because it's up in the mind, you know. You're not sort of competing against anybody. You know, there's no ego trip there, you know. It's just you're competing with yourself, and I think that's one of the most important and most incredible part of this sport, you know, like which trains a youngster's mind, because in all other sports we are always trained to compete against someone, you know. This is the only sport, I think, where you are competing against.
That's why we always taught, you know, that a very wise mountaineer again said that, you know, you never conquer a mountain, you climb a mountain when they're looking the other side. You know, that's why out there, when you're face to face with nature, you automatically, that humbleness flows into you when you see the power of nature. Out here, you might throw, you know, wrapper here and there, but you won't understand what it can do to you. But out there, when you're face to face with it, and you know, you're just ants on the mountain, you know. So you understand the power of nature and you start respecting it.
Yeah, because you never know what's in store with you, you know, and it's something which you would have no control over. Absolutely. Arjun, one last question. Who has been an inspiring factor in your family, a support system to you, you know, your mom and your dad?
Well, you know, it would be really harsh, because my whole family has actually worked really hard for this dream, you know. It wasn't just me climbing. I was actually practically climbing Everest, but they were, you know, indirectly climbing Everest at home, you know. Just, you know, the thought of sending your son to Everest and letting me go to Everest, you know, was itself a big thing which my parents a decision which they could take. And apart from that, yes, you know, from the motivating side, my sister came into play. My father and mother were always there, you know, supporting my dream. They never disencouraged me that, you know, oh, you will die there, you know. They were always face to face with reality. You obviously have to be careful, you know, nothing is impossible. And humans climb it, so definitely you can do it, but you have to be careful. So you know, this Everest climb is not just my feat which I've conquered, you know, which I've achieved, but it's like a lot of people are behind it, and especially credit goes to my mentor, Colonel Jodh Singh Dhillon, and apart from that, yes, my parents, they played a very vital role in my dreams coming true.
Whatever you told us is incredible, Arjun, and thank you so much for that. Thanks for watching Gajali on Prudent Media.